Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Whatever position of the world you're in at whatever time of day, grab some popcorn. It's fucking movie night. Now, over the course of the past 4 months, a very gradual incline of events began occurring surrounding a content creator known as Tobi, and it was brought to my attention a little over a week ago. Name a content creator that's not talking about it. Nani, Just a Robot, Harsh Opinions, Thuman, Manga Kamen, Prison Mate Luke, Creepshow Art, Hopeless Peaches. Except they're not talking about it. They're talking about Omnia and Kai, the two YouTubers that called Tobi out. What? I'll be the first to say I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in my peers, and I've told them all of this privately before even releasing the video. I've told everybody privately. I've spoken to nearly everybody in private. Everybody I could get my hands on. People are angry, and it could have been avoided very, very easily. Let's dial it back to where it started. Now, in order to understand where everything started, we're going to start with what Tobi was doing prior to criticism being put against her. Now, Ben the Looney, a cartoonist. Let me introduce you to Ben the Looney, the catalyst for the storm, not by his own decision, but due to his very gray, awkward, and strange actions. You see, Ben drew NSFW content predominantly of fictional characters from pop culture. Normally that wouldn't be much of a spectacle, except Ben didn't exclude minors. Characters that were minors from this group of fictional characters that he would draw, sparking an intense amount of friction on social media. For the most part, he's repented for what happened, and he's deeply apologized.
Basically, I got in trouble for a drawing I did of characters from OKKO Let's Be Heroes.
And I'll leave that in the video description. However, Ben's not the topic of today's video, it's Tobi. And I feel as though that's lost in this drama. It's called the Tobi drama. Tobi's name is plastered all throughout what is and what's known as this situation, and there is a reason for that. If you're unaware of who Tobi is at this point, there are commentary YouTube that has their claim to fame being a criticism video on Creepshow Art. A video many people have seen, and a video Tobi has since taken down. Tobi's been around the block for a little while, and Tobi took notice of Ben's arguably morally reprehensible behavior, and they put it in the limelight for the public to see. She even talked about it in a video titled, "I Love You, Buddy, R.I.P., a video about her dog passing away. She put it at the end of a video about her dog passing away. After explaining her entire story about her dog and the emotions she went through the passing, very solemn stuff. And I can empathize with in a fashion for losing your pet. It can be very upsetting. It can be a very upsetting event and to move on from. And I just find it very strange that Tobi would drop this at the end of a 40-minute video about your dog, around the 36-minute mark.
Ben Louie's a pedophile on Twitter who draws underage characters fucking. Some of them he ages up, like physically.
So you spend 36 minutes mourning your pet to finally throw a fucking pedophile accusation at the end of your video. And if you've been watching my content for long enough, you'll know how I feel about such a loose usage of the word pedophile to describe somebody. Do I personally think Ben is a pedophile? No, I don't. Do I think his drawing of minor characters is okay? No, it's not. I just argue it's a fucking morally reprehensible thing to do, and it's worth criticizing. And sure, some people might see Tobi's side with her analysis of Ben being a pedophile. Despite that, I'm not here to debate whether or not he is one. The reason I'm bringing it up is based on what Tobi said, because ultimately she shot herself in the foot. Around a year ago, Tobi created an art piece of Shoto Todoroki. I'm sorry. An art piece of Shoto Todoroki from My Hero Academia. It was posted on a now defunct art account that she no longer uses because she has no access to it anymore. Okay, well, maybe that one isn't that bad, right? It's kind of suggestive. It's BDSM, but oh, yeah. There's also this one, Sailor Moon. Yeah. So here's the premise. Tobi blatantly calls Ben DeLuny a pedophile on camera in front of thousands of people and on Twitter to all of her followers and in a community post, built on the premise that Ben draws underage characters in an NSFW setting with NSFW undertones. And according to Tobi's personal beliefs, one of which I disagree with, is that these people who do this are pedophiles. Now, the reason I say Tobi shot herself in the foot, if you're not following, is because she did the same thing. This is called hypocrisy. And despite this hypocrisy, Tobi stuck to her guns, very, very strongly in fact. Her personal strive towards what she pursues during this Ben situation is extremely needlessly aggressive, and as evident on Twitter, as evident on Discord, so aggressive in fact that she threatens another person, someone named Trent, with her influence. Many people will describe this as blackmail, and I wouldn't blame them for making that deduction. Jesus Christ, Tobi, chill. We aren't in drama class. All this aggression makes you look extremely unstable and unreliable, most likely because you are. This is not your first instance of hypocrisy either. You've been hypocritical before when discussing commentary YouTubers. In a deleted video where she spews about commentary channels for 5 minutes, she outlines what she absolutely hates about drama channels and channels that do videos on other creators, using instances like Shane Dawson, PewDiePie as like references to that fact.
It's such dumb bullshit. I'm sorry. I can't. I have things that are severely more fucking important than this dumb bullshit. I'm sick and tired of commentary channels and drama channels that severely hyper-criticize and pick apart every single little thing that somebody does online, even though they know themselves as fucking creators that there is shit that goes on behind closed fucking doors that the public does not know about for a fucking reason.
And she gets extremely enraged about the many criticisms thrown at PewDiePie and Shane and begins to use ad hominems to discredit these criticisms that were thrown at her favorite creators.
I've been a fan of PewDiePie. Even when he had the video where he said death to all Jews, I'm still a supporter. I'm floor game for life.
The only thing about these ad hominems is that she herself could be considered guilty of exactly what she's spewing about. She's actively participated and fueled this community that she so violently claims to be against because of her Creepshow art video, where she criticized Creepshow art in the same fashion that other people criticize PewDiePie and Shane. There's so many notable instances of Tobi being reckless and arguably shitty. There's an instance of Tobi using terms to describe the chest of another trans man, terms that called attention to the feminine parts of his body. The only time Tobi apologized was in a twit longer, where they said, my BPD. I mean, I can understand that mental illnesses can cause extremely unsavory notions to be placed onto social media, and despite all that, I still feel it's important to hold responsibility for what happens and to pick yourself up and realize why it happens and not do it again. The learning curve is there, and ultimately the internet can and usually will understand, but consistent behavior angers people. After a while, BPD will just become an out to continue that behavior, which will not make people happy. That's really the timeline of Tobi's stupid fucking behavior. This timeline slightly extends into the head, to the heat of the drama, but I feel as though it's important to outline all of this first before the video. Tobi pulled some hypocritical shit and said some socially controversial things and said, my BPD, ahaha. Now, a smaller YouTuber by the name of Kai Weiss, fuck!
Why does nobody pronounce my name correctly? It's Kai Weiss.
Smaller YouTuber about 4 months ago, they released a video titled, Tobi has a meltdown over Shane Dawson, PewDiePie, and drama channels. The video essentially outlines a lot of what I said earlier in the video when Kai caught this outlandish fuck commentary channels video, right when it came out. And the reason he was able to catch this video was because he was a fan, and that's an important distinction to make when moving forward with this video. Kai was a fan of Tobi's videos, and alongside being a fan of Tobi's videos, he shared that same relationship with a lot of other creators that are somewhat involved. In Kai's video, he outlines what Tobi said in her outlash, in her outcry, and criticized many of the things Tobi was being hypocritical about, and the clouded judgment she had for her ever-loving support for her favorite creators.
You're screaming about drama channels being hypocritical, which is a drastic overgeneralization. Most drama channels literally report what's going on in the internet world or what's happening with the public figure. You don't just get to skim over your Creepshow art video and say that it's just for fun. You spent over half an hour picking apart and talking about the problems with her content. You are a hypocrite, and it's honestly pitiful and disgusting that you sit here and condemn other people for the things that they did wrong and won't acknowledge your own fault.
The video was good, and ultimately, a lot of people I asked about agreed that it was good. Tobi was being a hypocrite, end of case. And among the criticism of Tobi, Kai placed a brief portion of his video outlining his discomfort and offense to the idea that Tobi would flaunt her support for Black Lives Matter while still rashly defending Shane and his actions, versus saying, yeah, Shane did a little oopsie with that blackface thing he did,
And as a black person, I find it extremely insulting that you want to ally Black Lives Matter, but advocate for people like Shane and PewDiePie.
Kai was a fan critiquing a creator he liked, a thing we do all the time, and a thing I actually respect. Fast forward a little bit, 1 to 2 months later, Tobi is now breathing down Ben the Looney's neck, and posts the community post about the situation. And this is around the time her dog video gets released, alongside a short 3-minute outburst titled, "It's still wrong if it's drawn," where Tobi expresses extreme loud distaste for people who draw minors in NSFW situations, which is something she had been vocal about in the past on the community tabs.
Disgusting fucking perverts who draw CP. Let's all call it what it really fucking is. Don't even try to be like, technically. No! I don't care what kind of argument you try to make. It's all fucking stupid. It's not okay, period. I shouldn't have to say that.
We can presume that the video is charged due to the Ben situation, despite not directly name-bombing him. Only putting him at the end of a fucking dog video. But, she had been very vocal about the want to do a video on him for a while now, and this is where things start to get a bit messy. This is when Omnia comes into the equation, a content creator that does commentary videos. She releases a video in direct response to Tobi's "Still Wrong If It's Drawn" upload, and this video was a collaboration with the previous YouTuber we discussed, Kai. This video is what sparked the flame. Not intentionally, of course. Omnia and Kai both outline more and more of the faults of Tobi, now directly addressing this new hypocritical video of hers. This is when NSFW drawings of minor characters are first thrown into the commentary public limelight, and another instance of hypocrisy that is now shown to the public. The video itself has no general issues, and it was received relatively well. The only real pitfall is the unintentional lack of context to the screenshots, where Omnia exclaims that Tobi, quote-unquote, reached out to her to discuss their Creepshow art video.
About a month ago, Tobi reached out to me to talk about my own Creepshow art video.
But the only issue is the DMs pointed to a different narrative, and that looked a bit odd. And another very important thing to note is that Omnia spent a lot of time focusing heavily on Tobi's support for Shane Dawson, and for also advocating for the Black Lives Matter movement. Omnia throws in a new term that will be used to kind of push this drama pretty far: performative activism. A concept she focuses on for quite a lot during the video, and I think that's where a mistake was made. However, this is addressed in Tobi's super epic next video titled "Addressing My Controversies." In this video, Tobi outlines her own personal defense and strongly defends her stance on many of the things she had been criticized for. Very aggressively, might I add. In the video, Tobi begins to throw out the idea that Omnia used the DMs maliciously and cut out important context to the conversation, and then proceeds to show the conversation herself in order to rectify her stance.
Now she says in her video that I was the first one to message her, and which is false, and I would like to show you right now. And if you can see from right here, she messaged me first.
Okay, that makes sense. That's one suspicion answered. That screenshot looked kind of weird. It looked like she was replying to Omnia. She DM'd first and proceeded to talk about the Creepshow video. I find it odd she'd leave out the fact that Tobi that she DM'd Tobi first, especially since it's such an unimportant detail in regards to the entire situation as a whole. However, that's something Tobi really focused on in her response, likely to discredit her video and her image, which would make sense in a quarrel like this. It's an ad hominem. It's quite a fucking stupid argument. But I'd argue that it doesn't really matter who reached out to who first. But all I know is that Omnia started the conversation about Shane. Yaoi and all the commentary. She started that conversation, not Tobi.
Now, this person who made a video on me decided to take a Boku no Hero Academia picture that I drew a couple of years ago and basically said, she said CP is wrong, but drew this. Also, this person tried to make it sound like my work and Ben the Looney's work was the same, so I'm technically a hypocrite, but I'm sorry, I've never ever drawn any underage characters with their dicks out fucking somebody else, while somebody who is underage, looks underage, and is drawn exactly how they are in the cartoon, where they are 9, filming them fucking each other when they are all still physically of the age that they are in the cartoon, which is 12. I've never ever drawn anything like that, and that's the majority of all Ben the Looney's work, so nice try.
Listen, I get the point you're trying to convey, and yes, you definitely did not go as far as Ben did, and yeah, his art was pretty fucking nasty. However, just own up. Take a step down, look at yourself for a moment, and say, yes, I'm being kind of hypocritical. Just accept the criticism. Things would have been so much nicer for you in the long run, and you would have been able to walk away a lot easier. And a lot of people would have been more forgiving. Besides, the artwork Ben put out there is arguably a lot worse. So at this point, your behavior is what's killing you, not even the art. And yes, you did include an apology in the pinned comment in regards to what happened about the trans situation, which hooray, good on you, but I would have left out the part about BPD, especially considering that you've spent so much time talking about it in your response video. It looks very manipulative.
Slightly annoying. There is a difference between using a personality or a mental disorder as an excuse versus explaining why you act the way that you do and working on bettering yourself because of it. So first off, if you don't already know, I have a personality or a mood disorder called borderline personality disorder.
Tobi tries to distance herself using her BPD diagnosis, which yes, we can understand that it causes people to behave in irrational ways. However, it is not out of the ordinary for people to not want to associate with you simply because of that. It's not out of the ordinary for people to tell you that you fucked up either. People will be more lenient and they will be more forgiving as time progresses, but there comes a time where you just become a nuisance. Can't handle it, reevaluate and take a break. I've done an entire video about something very similar, about creators with mental disorders being unable to handle the spotlight. And I don't doubt this is also the case here. If you realize you fucked up due to your BPD, why point fingers to the other side like you did? It doesn't make sense. It's why there's so many dislikes on the video. It's because people know you fucked up and yet you're trying to brush over it and get mad at people because they don't understand that you have a diagnosis. That's not a good argument. It'll just make people mad. Just own up, apologize, and then explain that your BPD causes it. Don't point the finger around. The same day that her response came out, Kai posted a video on the situation. Now, before Kai's release, I believe Tobi's response wasn't out yet, and it definitely wasn't out during the development of the video. You know, essentially, in this video, Kai outlines more Tobi faults and outlines what was already mostly said in Omnia's video in a more cohesive manner, with the addition of a few new name drops: Madlibs, Nezzy Monster. Madlibs and Nezzy were never actually created a video on the situation itself. They were simply very proactive and vocal on Twitter regarding the situation. Now, in response to Tobi's claims that the screenshots were cut out, and left from, the context, Omnia released full context to the screenshots on Twitter. 2 days later, she would later release it on her video on YouTube, including almost all of their conversations in order to combat the claims that she cut DMs. These two content creators, Madlibs and Nezzy, along with Tobi, did not like this. They continued to exclaim that Omnia had no right to release all of these private details in their conversation, to which I can resonate with. Despite that, I would also point to the fact that I see why Omnia felt like she needed to. You were trying to discredit her. And despite all of that, Omnia did her best to take down any public instances of your DM conversation from the public, and that's a decision you guys should respect immensely, considering the circumstances. That includes blurring it on her video response, which we're just now getting to. Another thing to note is that Kai personally apologized and acknowledged for a lot of his behavior on Twitter, Kai and Omnia jumped the gun when it came to other users vague tweeting, and ultimately they made themselves look very hostile and ignorant when it turned out the vague tweeting was not about them, the vague tweeting by Mad Libs.
But before I get into that, I want to be 100% transparent and say that Omnia and I both made a miscommunication in this subtweet that Libby made about ZFix's art. Omnia assumed that it was about her and replied, and I went on to defend her as well. Nezzy Monster, who I'll get into in a moment, as well as Libby, soon clarified that this tweet wasn't about Omnia. Neither was Libby's upcoming video. That's our bad. We made a lapse in judgment.
A few days later, Omnia posts a response to Tobi's, statement. And this is the video where she includes all of their DM conversations, which are now blurred out because she went back and did that. And generally, I feel as though I don't need to review this video because it outlines much of the things I've already said. And plus, it branches out from the timeline of video responses and generally just used Tobi's response video as context to fuel further argument and criticism. The only notable thing to point out is that the continuation of the Shane Dawson / Black Lives Matter activism criticism, something that was focused on generally due to the nature of the DMs that Omnia was displaying throughout the video. And that's also a point where the situation unfolded so rashly. There was so much time spent on the performative activism criticism. And that's not to say Omnia was not in her right to discuss this. She's a black woman, she can do that. However, I feel as though focusing on it so much made the points of what they were trying to do lost in translation. And I believe Kai outlined it perfectly in his first video.
Tobi, you are a hypocrite, and it's honestly pitiful and disgusting that you sit here and condemn other people for the things that they did wrong and won't acknowledge your own faults.
Tobi's a hypocrite. She was being a hypocrite for actively defending Shane and being pissed at commentary YouTubers for criticizing him, while actively involving herself in similar commentary and not understanding that people are within their own right to be mad at Shane for what he did. A day later, Harsh Opinions, an art commentary YouTuber, releases a video on Omnia and Kai regarding the situation and their approach on the drama. And she uses Kai's second video as a footrest to her criticism in using rebuttals to his arguments. And I say it's a video criticizing Omnia and Kai because generally a lot of the video was mostly focused on how Omnia and Kai behaved throughout the situation, and not that much, focus on Tobi. And this confused a lot of people, considering after looking at everything we've seen so far, why point fingers at these two? It's because of the way they made their videos. Generally, Harsh's video relies heavily on the implication that Kai and Omnia implied a lot of things in their arguments. And this video really opened my eyes to a lot of the misunderstood nature of Omnia and Kai and why they made their videos. Harsh made their video to try and show a different angle to the situation, how Kai's wording could generally be misintrusive and be misconstructed in the wrong way. And sure, I could see how that conclusion can be drawn.
Let's talk about your defense in the whole "I never called her a pedophile" argument. While yes, you didn't outright say the sentence "Tobi is a pedophile," you were very underhanded and still implied that, because you literally said she is no better than the people who she complains about.
I don't want to call Tobi a pedo because I don't think Tobi is a pedo. I just think that her generalization of what makes somebody a pedo is way too vague, and she falls within that.
The situation itself is so convoluted and messy due to the fact that so much information is spread across so many videos. There's not a lot of coherency to what's being said, and I partially blame Omnia and Kai. They're very new to the commentary scene, and a lot of information was fucking lost in their wording, and it just became a game of telephone from one ear to another and to another ear. People weren't watching all of the videos, and they weren't getting the full story, and that echoes across all of the community. Recognize that and let her know, yo, you're being stupid, as opposed to also pointing fingers at Kai and all of them for being somewhat shady with the way they brought about it. I mean, sure, maybe they did it weirdly, but the fact of the matter is what they're saying is correct.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't really know. I didn't watch any of the videos.
Now, I'll be the first to admit, the art commentary community is what I like to call contrarians. Contrarians are people who like to reject the popular opinion, and I feel as though much of the miscommunication across so many platforms and so much misunderstanding that of everything that was being said, that these art commentary YouTubers will get ill-informed and they want to hop on in the best way they can. And however, due to the nature of what they do, being contrarians, they tend to focus way too hard on being the devil's advocate. And in this case, that's what killed Harsh Opinion so harshly. Get it? Harsh. You know, alongside her very aggressive and insulting rhetoric, one that I'm not personally a fan of, but that some people like it.
Bruh, let Omnia speak about her shitty behavior and stop keeping her name in your mouth when something goes wrong on her end. I don't fucking care if she's your friend or not. She's a fucking adult who is very capable of speaking for herself on any matters that comes from her and her only.
However, I feel as though that is a persona that she puts on, and one that I could argue might not be very appropriate considering the context, and it's another reason she probably got so much slack when it came out.
Like, I know that, you know, with my persona, I come off as a real bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I come off as though I'm the kind of person that just won't listen to any reason or will just be an asshole for the sake of it or anything like that, when in actuality, you know, like if you were to talk to me personally, I will talk to you like a normal human being.
I'd understand why people would want to look at things and point out the faults of the opposing party. However, in this case, the situation didn't entail such a loud, long opposition, and I feel as though it strives more from a misunderstanding and misresponsibility of their platform more than a malicious or aggressive attack. And in this video, Harsh drew a lot of extremely outlandish hypotheticals that made her look very irrational. For context, Omnia placed a rather impulsive, angry, and stupid bit in her video in regards to the situation, and here it is.
Right now, I'm speaking to Madlibs Art and whoever else you're collaborating with on this supposed video y'all are making. Unless you're looking to end up like your little friend right here, just don't do it. You already look bad for getting yourself involved for no reason other than to do Tobi's dirty work. So just spare yourself the time and the inevitable tank in subscribers and just make some other video. I'm saying this for your own good. Take care of yourself.
Now, this part was taken out relatively quickly, likely due to, you know, how bad, you know, it looks. Due to Kai's convincing of her to take it out, it was taken out. And I can imagine how frustrated this situation is making people. And yeah, that looks like sudden aggression that came out of nowhere. Harsh spent some time talking about this portion of the video that got removed, and she drew a lot of hypothetical and outlandish conclusions that even I didn't understand.
Both of you worked on this fucking collab and even did it within a single fucking day. You knew what was going to be said, and quite frankly, I don't believe you for a second. You're telling me that you told Omnia what she was saying can be seen as confrontational and threatening, and yet it was still posted to the public anyways? And you didn't edit that portion out until what? 2 hours later, and even posted it at a time where everyone was asleep and less likely to see that? Literally, it was straight up 1 in the goddamn morning when we caught Omnia saying that before it was edited, and then an hour later, suddenly that part was gone. So yes, that is in fact shady, Kai, and not only that, but the way it happened seemed to me like that was planned, and you removed it once you felt like Madlibs or anyone else who was planning to make a video against you saw that part. You need to understand that this comes off as though you wanted them to see what you said before removing it.
Harsh, we've talked. You're nice, you're very friendly, and you were very friendly to me when I contacted you about everything. However, from one mutual to another, no. I don't think it's good to just throw idea out there when it's all built on speculation. Kai responded to this video, defending himself and Omnia and pointing out how Harsh misunderstood what Kai said and re-elaborated on what he truly meant by his words, and additionally, this clip was included.
I really don't want to get into the topic of the race comments because that's a whole other can of worms that really didn't need to be fucking opened.
A can of worms that didn't need to be fucking opened? You're a white woman. Who are you to say that? That can of worms is open for me and Omnia both, every day of our lives as black people. If that BLM in your Twitter name meant anything, you would know how foolish it is to say this.
This was a very short moment of Kai's video where he mentioned Harsh's criticism on how racial topics were brought into the equation. This is where Kai responds to her, telling her she wouldn't get it considering she's quote-unquote white. Kai was wrong in that matter. She's actually mixed, she's biracial. He's acknowledged that, but I can understand why Harsh said what she said and why she came to the deduction that she doesn't want to open this quote-unquote can of worms. The topic of race was echoing across the community a lot, and I would argue there's far too much focus on it. versus focus on the situation at hand. However, picking words carefully is very important. Harsh spoke to me on this, and they resent what they said and how it was implied.
I will apologize for miswording the can of worms statement, of course, because that was a miswording on my part.
I feel as though that's important to the topic. People can slip up on their words, and it's also important to note that all the content creators, including Omnia and Kai, including me, don't believe Harsh is racist by any means.
Me, Thuman, Omnia, none of us at all ever said that anybody was racist. Yeah,
No,
never once did I call any of these people racist.
Yeah, I can't say that she's a performative activist or anything. Her wording was poor. Like, that's it.
It disheartens me that such a conclusion was drawn by so many people, you know, despite all the content creators involved not sharing the same sentiment. And I think it's best to let the word die where it stands and stop using it to describe Harsh or pretty much anyone else in this situation. And as of right now, Harsh has taken down their video, likely due to how it ended up and how it ended up painting her. Now, around this time, a third-party commentary channel named PrisonMate Luke began to upload videos on the topic, highly supportive of Omnia and Kai's position on the drama. Ultimately, their videos don't feed a lot into the timeline, so I'm mostly just going to mention it here and leave it at that. After a little while, a close mutual of mine, Nani, released a video on the topic, and yeah, I'll just play this clip from that video for you to get a general understanding.
You were wrong then, and you are even more wrong now. In an attempt to gain her power back, Omnia released all the DMs for the public to see.
I don't know what you meant by in an attempt to gain her power back, but it makes it feel like you're trying to paint Tobi as like some literal monster creature who has stolen Omnia's right to speak on YouTube and taken it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It just sounds like you're really trying to make Tobi sound like an insane human being.
Nani, you don't sound so sure of yourself. And what's interesting about what Nani said, combined with her confused rhetoric, is that this is the same point Harsh made in her previous video. In fact, a lot of Nani's points in her video generally feed from the same premise that Harsh did. And in the end, Nani took the video down because her fans seemed genuinely disappointed in her work done on it. She said it was because people were calling her racist, but honestly, that was a very small minority of people. You're a sweet gal, Nani. I know you're not fucking racist. And so do a lot of other people. They were just upset by an ill-informed video, which is reasonable, and it's something you can climb up from and acknowledge and walk past. This video. Ooh. Thuman, a commentary channel that does videos on art sometimes, maybe oftentimes. Thuman dropped the video. She gave a general outline to everything that went down thus far, and it's also a video that only plays in the left ear channel, and it fucking tortures me.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different from the usual.
Thuman's video points blame at the small group inside of the art commentary community alongside its creators. After breaking down the timeline of events in her video, she moves forward to bring in a bunch of new names into the situation. Hopeless Peaches, Miss ZZ, Manga Kamen. And in my honest opinion, I feel as though bringing this up further pushes the idea that everybody on this side, on our side of the art commentary community, fed off of each other's frustration out of their misunderstanding behind everyone's intention. So they began to push out anger into the public view. Despite these creators never making videos on the topic at the time, they publicly put their opinions out there, and Thuman thought it was important to point out. Majority of the creators I just listed have publicly or privately apologized on their own terms. This confused a lot of people, specifically the individuals themselves, and I think this strives all the way back to what I first said about Kai, and how he was a fan of everybody's content before all of this went down. So was Omnia, and so was Thuman.
I've been a long-time viewer of all of these channels. Hopeless Speeches, Bad Lips, Nani. I know and I respect it, right? I looked up to them.
Think about it like this. A content creator you like does something stupid. You criticize them respectfully and aggressively on it like Kai did when the situation started. Then you find that a few of their friends, whom you know of from other videos that you've watched, are combating you. then you find more and more of your idols begin to get involved and come out of the woodworks and start criticizing you and, you know, for calling out hypocritical behavior. It doesn't make any sense. And I could see that. I could see it doesn't. Omnia, Kai, and Thuman looked up to our content. They emulated their vision of our content. Theoretically, they should have the same views as us. And when you boil it down, they do. Why are we fighting? Why is there so much anger and stress? In Thuman's video, she brings up the topic of race very briefly once again to make the observation that larger content creators appear to be dogging on content creators that are people of color. And while yes, that's a very understandable observation to make, I believe it's pure coincidence, especially considering Harsh Opinions is biracial.
Ganging up on significantly smaller, up-and-coming POC creators for giving out valid criticism on your friend is not something I'm going to pass by and ignore, which is why this video was made in the first place.
I don't think this conversation needs to be as racially charged as it is currently because it's turning into an untouchable situation. And I put a lot of blame on the viewers for throwing out terms like racist into, you know, the fucking equation. The small minority of viewers that do. And in the end, we should just scream at Tobi for even being stupid in the first place. Not all of this. No. The people in our community need to turn our finger around, point at ourselves for a moment, humbly and self-reflectively, and do better. And that sums it up. Finally, closure. The Tobi drama has ended. Cool, I guess not. So, it's not exactly a secret. Me and Just a Robot are buddies. Chums, pals. And so when I speak about him here, I speak out of pure care for a friend of mine who did something stupid and should likely not do it again to avoid complications. I personally feel as though Jar's video is very tone deaf, you know, more so than the other ones we reviewed. Jar's video was a collaboration with Manga Kamen and Fuchsia Butter.
I'm joining in because Tobi is my friend.
Uh-oh. And to be honest, Jar's video very much illustrates a lot of what I reiterated constantly throughout the video. Jar focused a lot on the racial aspect of the situation and generally spent a lot of the video focusing on Harsh Opinion's take on the situation. And when talking to Jar, it's clear to me that this video was made out of anger for a friend.
I mostly did this because people were calling her racist, and I was like, I don't think Tobi, I mean, Nani is racist in the least bit.
If I can be completely honest, I think he just got really upset that a smaller commentator called Harsh Opinions pretty much got called racist.
Harsh's video got a lot of slack considering the circumstances of the situation, and presumptuously, Jar was upset by that fact, and he was upset that people would call Harsh racist. And that's very evident if you watch the first portion of his video, where they use me as an example of them not wanting to repeat the same mistake as last time.
That's funny. I remember saying the same thing to you about a certain green lizard.
Fair point, but I don't want to fuck it up like you did.
Oi!
And in fact, Jar did spend a decent portion of his video outright criticizing Tobi's actions.
Then again, Tobi's response to that was, like, there was way too much emotion put into that video. It was an overly emotional response that started off in the worst way possible.
Whenever you address detractors, you need to throttle yourself, otherwise you'll come off as an egomaniac.
Before turning around and pointing right back at Kai and Omnia, you know, defending Harsh with his logic.
Because not only does Harsh Opinions make it clear in her video at the beginning that she isn't standing with Tobi, even criticizing her as well at the beginning.
I'd understand why you'd want to defend your friend Jar, but the way you went about it was not the right way to go, and your logic was even more so. You did defend Tobi to an extent as well, when it comes to them making pedo accusations. They weren't, and we all know that. However, Jar was under that impression, and he was trying to push this agenda that alludes to that fact.
Fine, I get that. But she didn't draw porn of him. I don't like the movie Cuties, but it isn't porn.
Your Cuties comment was ill-spoken. It was very controversial to say, and I hope you know that. People hated Cuties as much as they hate NSFW art of underage fictional characters, and that analogy that you made in your video is like comparing apples to apples. It's not very strong. Also, Jar, you focused too much on the racial aspect of the argument, and you threw some pretty intense things into the equation. Things I wouldn't repeat myself, and we're friends. I don't want to sit down and list all the bads that you did in your video, but it was a mistake to place fuchsia butter in your video if your intentions were to make something neutral. And so, to answer Jar's burning question.
But he's only roughly twice the size of Harsh, and just look at the amount of dislikes she got. That is not normal. No one even commentated on Nani's video, and it also got a ton of dislikes and hate comments. Now, maybe Harsh's and Nani's videos were terrible, but I watched them both. They were just as calm and collective as they normally are. I just don't understand why so much backlash.
Jar, they got backlash because they jumped into something without understanding what they were talking about. Hopefully this video can illustrate that. To sum it all up, you made a lot of outlandish defenses to your friends, and when really the best thing you could have done is to help them look at their own mistakes right in the face, and to lighten their intentions. You said things that made you look pretty fucking crazy. And as a matter of fact, your rebuttals have caused a lot of people to start making jokes and start alluding to you being a quote-unquote pedophile. One of which I know is not true, especially since it's based only on an argumentative point that you made. And I don't take too kindly to people just using it to describe you, especially without any other real reason than you just made a really bad point. You said yourself, you're willing to take the L on your video.
Yeah, if I have to take the L on this one, that will be fine. I just want to respond to this as quickly as we can.
And I respect that, and so if that's the case, just take the L humbly, relax a little bit, and just self-reflect. And people will respect that. And I'm sure between, as friends, you and I, you can understand where I'm coming from, because I know you're going to watch this video. There were a few responses to Jar's video, one of which being prison mate Luke, the other being Kai himself, releasing an hour-long commentary that goes into more detail, but I'm done. I'm done. That's like the end of the timeline. Let's let it die.
I just don't want to be fucking involved anymore. I just kind of think we should let sleeping dogs lie.
Because frankly, at this point, I'm just getting sick of it.
Yeah, because I just want this to be over already. Like, I mostly did this because people were calling her racist, and I was like, I don't think Tobi, I mean Nani is racist in the least bit.
I'm so genuinely tired of this situation, man. I'm so tired of it. Look, man, I don't want to do another response. Like, even at this point, bro, like, I don't have any ill will toward any of these people. Just like ZZ. Like, I have no ill will towards ZZ.
Why are we arguing? Why? Let's chill out and relax. Everybody sounds tired, and I don't see why we would continue to progress this situation any further. Everybody is stressed. Nobody's having fun anymore. And after my video comes out, I want to try to get people to talk. I have all your contacts. We can just cut it here. And if you don't want to, that's fine. We can move on and forget. I know there's going to be 2 more videos out of certainty. Certainly 2 more videos that are going to be released regarding the situation. One by Jar, one by Junkie. Hopefully both of them come out and that feeds the end of this situation. This is the only video I'm making. I'm not speaking on this any further from this point forward. Everything I have to say is in this video. Let's just cut it. We all made a nice bag of cash from this drama, from that epic YouTube AdSense. Let's just look at it as a little bit of fun, a little bit of a business adventure, and laugh about it on the playing field. And we can just... There we go.